10 spine-chilling encounters, terrifying legends from haunted Michigan revealed exposed. Lisa's heart hammered as she scrubbed down the last table at the diner. It was a slow night, the kind that gnawed at her nerves, amplifying every whispered rumor and suspicious glance. Just then, a group of locals huddled in the corner caught her attention. Their hushed conversation felt heavier than the greasy plates in front of them. The words, vengeance, abandonment, and the spirit of the scorned mother, floated over to her, sending chills down her spine. Legends swirled around this seemingly average suburban town, telling of mothers wronged, roaming the streets in search of justice or revenge. It was insane, just ghost stories, right? But the way they spoke, their faces pale, seemed to breathe life into each myth. Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the diner, making her shiver. The doors rattled as if something outside had reached for her. She shook her head, trying to clear the pesky thoughts nagging at her since her husband disappeared. "He's gone forever," she muttered under her breath, but the creeping dread never truly left. As she locked up for the night, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. When she arrived home, an eerie silence hugged her. Only the soft sighs of her children sleeping could be heard, yet the unease stalked her when she noticed the children's toys scattered in a way she distinctly remembered putting them away. As days passed, the surreal occurrences escalated. Mysterious notes began appearing under her pillow, cryptic messages that seemed to unravel her husband's past. "You should have searched harder," one warned. Who could send such things? Was she losing her mind? She felt herself slipping into paranoia, each letter a reminder of his absence and the secrets this town harbored. Lisa confided in Carter, her neighbor. He was charming, with a welcoming smile that hid underneath it a drumming uncertainty. His stories of an old, abandoned hospital tugged at her curiosity. "They say the souls of those who were neglected linger there," he whispered, his eyes gleaming with concern. She felt drawn to it, but deep down, revulsion surged. Could she trust him? One stormy evening, as rain lashed against her windows, she found herself outside the hospital's gates. The world around her faded. The air turned cold, pressing against her skin as she stood at the doorway, the dilapidated building looming like a grave. It felt wrong, ominous. An ache thudded in her chest. "Focus, Lisa. Get answers." Inside, darkness clung to every corner, the scent of mildew bit her nostrils. Shadows seemed to twist, elongating into ominous forms as whispers wafted through the hallways, chilling her bones. Suddenly, she stumbled across a diary, a nurse's journal, yellowed with age. It detailed horrors inflicted on patients, tales of a woman who had come seeking help, a woman who vanished without a trace. Fear coiled tight around her heart as the hammering echo of her racing pulse rang in her ears. The last entry sent a wave of nausea through her. She came for her children, just like all the others, and then she disappeared. The air shifted as soft weeping resounded from the corridor. Lisa froze, breath hitching. A sense of dread gripped her soul. Panicking, she turned to flee. Just as she turned, the lights flickered, darkness enveloped her. The whispers turned into anguished cries. Something in the shadows was extremely close, and she could feel its icy breath on her neck. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stumbled deeper into the darkness, a realization hit her. The line between the community she had trusted and the terrifying truths lurking in the shadows was a razor's edge. Was the spirit of the town's haunted past ready to reveal itself to her? All she needed was the truth. But in her desperation, was she ready for what awaited her? Lisa's breath quickened, each rapid exhale swirling in the freezing air as she turned towards the sound of the weeping. It was a sound unlike any other, filled with sorrow and an aching desperation that resonated deep into her bones. The shadows danced around her, playing hide and seek in the fading light. Her heart raced, pounding like a wild drum in her ears, drowning out all other sounds as she forced herself to move. The corridor loomed ahead, a cavernous pit of darkness that beckoned with the allure of secrets long buried. She glanced behind her, the flickering lights casting menacing shapes on the cracked walls. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, but her voice trembled, betraying the terror clenching her throat. With shaky steps, she ventured further into the abyss, drawn to that heart-wrenching cry. Each step sent echoes through the disparaging silence. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely making it past the lump in her throat. The only reply was that heartbroken wail that resonated with the emptiness of the hall. There at the end of the corridor a flicker of light pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing her in as if bewitched. She approached cautiously, adrenaline surging through her veins, every instinct screaming to turn back. But the thought of unanswered questions propelled her forward. "Please, is someone there?" Her voice broke, mingling with the oppressive atmosphere. Yet, as she took another tentative step, the light vanished. She paused, icy fingers of fear gripping her heart again. Darkness rushed back, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. Panic surged. It felt as if the shadows themselves were alive, watching, waiting, but she couldn't turn back, not now. If there were answers to be found, she had to uncover them or die trying. Her fingertips brushed against the wall, steadying herself as she felt the coarse, damp texture. Just then, the cries transformed into whispers, muffled yet distinct, swirling around her like a ghostly choir. "Help her," a voice hissed, ethereal in its urgency. "Help us!" More voices followed, each one laced with despair. Lisa's spine tingled. "Help who?" she breathed, crossing the invisible line of dread. As if her words opened a floodgate, the whispers intensified, a cacophony of lost souls pleading for aid, their misery steeped in the stench of abandonment. Out, the door, beneath, the muffled voices repeated, weaving like a thread through the fabric of fear surrounding her. It made no sense, but it was a lifeline, a choice to unravel the knot in her chest. Summoning her courage, she turned toward the exit, the oppressive darkness receding just enough to allow a sliver of moonlight to sneak through a cracked window. The hall felt alive, closing in, tangible in its hunger. She could almost hear the spirits whispering, urging her to leave while she still could. But then, the distant crash of glass echoed behind her, sharp, sudden, like the final breath of a dying thing. She gasped, heart thundering. Something was in the hospital with her, something that didn't want her to escape. Just as she bolted towards the door, she felt a cold grip at her wrist. Desperation surged, mixing with the ice of terror as she spun around. It was too dark to see, but she could feel the presence closing in. Was it the woman from the stories? The lost mother? "What do you want?" Lisa shouted into the void, and then silence fell, but it was quickly shattered. An anguished scream pierced the air, and Lisa's world spun into chaos again as the darkness came alive, grasping, clawing. Would she discover the truth hidden in that room, or would she become another lost soul, trapped within the hospital's haunted walls? The thought crept in as she struggled against the icy grip. At that moment, she knew one thing for sure: whatever was waiting for her in the darkness wasn't keen on letting her go. And beneath it all, a feeling deep inside whispered of secrets that weren't hers to uncover. What horrors lay beyond that threshold waiting for her? Lisa's heart raced, caught in the vice of terror and confusion. The scream faded into an eerie echo, stretching and warping until it became indistinguishable from the whispers that surrounded her. She yanked her arm, but the grip only tightened, cold and unyielding, dragging her further into the darkness. "Let me go!" she cried, panic flooding her voice. The presence tugged, pulling her back as if it wanted her to join it in whatever shadowy abyss lay ahead. Her feet stumbled against the rough floor, and she turned to face whatever had seized her wrist. Her breath hitched. A face appeared briefly within the blackness, a woman, hollow-eyed and gaunt, lips curled in a macabre smile. Lisa stumbled back, shaking her head, denying the reality that stood just beyond the veil of darkness. Without thinking, she jerked her arm free with a surge of adrenaline. Heart pounding, she sprinted toward the exit, the whispers rising to a frenzy behind her, urging her to stop, to listen. Help, her. What did they want? Lisa didn't have time to grapple with the question. The door loomed closer, a beacon of hope amidst the swirling shadows, but suddenly the ground beneath her jolted, the floor quaked violently, as though the building itself was alive and resisting her escape. She threw herself against the door, twisting the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The metal felt hot, pulsing against her palm like a heartbeat. Desperation clawed at her throat as she threw her body against it again and again, but the door remained steadfast, mocking her struggle. Then a sound shattered the tension, a laugh, high and shrill, echoing through the hall. The chilling tone sent a cascade of ice running down her spine. It was the sound of amusement, but woven within was an undercurrent of malice. The laughter reverberated, leaving her feeling exposed, naked in the night-making shadows. Instinctively, Lisa turned. The woman was back, emerging from the shadows, dripping with darkness. Her voice low, almost distracted, she whispered, "You should have listened." The words sliced through the air, freezing Lisa's feet to the floor. "Help me. Please." Lisa begged, her voice barely a whisper, thick with fear. But the woman's eyes glinted like shards of broken glass, devoid of humanity. "Help, beneath." The whispers soared again, crescendoing into a maddening swell of sounds. Shadows warped into shapes that loomed larger, threatening to close in on her. She felt the walls pulse, like the rhythmic beating of a heart, and knew she couldn't stay. Somewhere, in the back of her mind, her own survival took precedence. Frantic, she darted back down the corridor where the light had flickered. If the whispers were guiding her to something beneath, she had to find out what it was or become one of them. A door appeared as if summoned by the chaos, cracked open just a sliver, a feeble light spilling into the dark. With renewed determination, Lisa darted toward it. She pushed it open and stumbled into a basement that smelled of mildew and decay. The air was thick with secrets. In the corner, a suitcase lay half buried under debris. Lisa's heartbeat thundered in her ears as she knelt, instinctively reaching for it. Was this what they wanted her to discover? Curiosity warred with dread. As her fingers brushed the cold metal clasp, an urgent whisper called out to her, drowning out her fears. "Open it, please." The moment she touched the latch, everything went still. The air became electric, taut with impending revelation. Was she unlocking a dark truth, or sealing her fate forever? In that heavy silence, Lisa's heart raced as she hesitated, breath catching in her throat. What lay within the suitcase that could change everything? The suitcase felt ominous beneath her fingers, a weight that transcended its physical form. Lisa's breath came in shallow gasps, each one thick with dread. What lay within was more than just a mystery. It was potentially her salvation or her doom. With a trembling hand, she flicked the latch open. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the silence, reverberating off the damp walls. She lifted the lid, the hinges squeaking in protest as if warning her against what was to come. Inside, a tangle of shadows awaited. At first, it looked like clothes, tattered and faded, but as she pulled them aside, a glimmer of something metallic caught her eye. A small, ornate mirror, its surface cracked and darkened with grime. As she grasped it, a surge of cold air swept through the basement, as if the very fabric of the darkness was disturbed. Lisa's heart raced. In the reflection, she didn't see her own face. Instead, she saw flashes of other people screaming, twisted faces, moments suspended in agony. It was as if the mirror captured more than just images, it trapped souls, their despair etched into every fracture of the glass. "No!" she gasped, recoiling as icy fingers of fear wrapped around her throat. She wanted to drop it, to throw it away, but the whispering voices swelled again, rising like a tide, drowning her resolve. "Help her, help us!" The air grew heavier, thick with their cries, the basement swirling with the weight of their unfulfilled pleas. Shadows danced on the walls, flickering like dying flames, and in the periphery, she could see them reaching out, blurred figures slipping through the edges of her vision. "Please," Lisa muttered, clutching the mirror as her lifelines frayed. She wanted to run, to hide, but there was something compelling about the mirror, an unwilling magnetism pulling her closer, promising the answers to the questions that swirled in her mind. "If I help you, will you let me go?" she whispered, her voice a thread of sound in the chaos. The shadows paused, as though considering her offer. Then came a singular whisper, clear in the silence. "Free the one trapped within." Lisa's stomach twisted. There was no way the woman from before was the only one imprisoned in this grotesque realm. She hesitated, the conflicted tug of compassion and fear warping her thoughts. Could she truly help them? As if in response, the mirror began to shimmer, the surface swirling in a mesmerizing dance of light and dark. Lisa leaned closer, transfixed. Slowly, images coalesced: a glimpse of a fading room with walls painted a sickly yellow, a child sitting in the corner, tears streaming down a face that mirrored her own fear. "Look closer," the whispers urged, weaving through the air like smoke. Breath caught in her throat again, she squinted at the mirror. The movements became frenetic, a snapshot of suffocation and despair. She gasped, understanding dawning with a sickening churning in her belly. The child was not just a reflection, it was a warning. Just then, a violent jolt surged through the basement, rattling dust from the ceiling. The shadows convulsed, shrieking in a cacophony. "You must choose. Save her or be forever." Lisa's heart dropped. She stood at the precipice of a decision that could condemn her or free them all. Could she confront the horrors that dwelled within those fractured reflections, or would the pursuit cost her everything? Time held no meaning in the blackened basement as the whispers crescendoed. Somewhere above, a door creaked, a sound too close for comfort. Panic surged through her veins. What had she unleashed? And would the shadows allow her to escape once more? With the mirror clutched tightly in hand, Lisa steeled herself for the ordeal ahead, knowing that the real nightmare was just beginning. The cold air gripped Lisa's lungs as the echoes of the basement filled her with dread. Each shadow seemed to pulse like a heartbeat, breathing life into the darkness that surrounded her. The whispers intensified, a swirling hurricane of lost souls drowning out her thoughts. Save her who? Lisa shouted into the suffocating blackness, desperation coloring her voice. The mirror trembled in her grip, and she felt its icy surface pulse against her palm. She had to make a choice, but her mind felt paralyzed, trapped in a void of terror. Could she save someone? Was there anyone left alive in this anguished realm? The vibrating shadows shifted, their forms coiling around her. One of them elongated, its outlines solidifying into a vague semblance of a figure dark and menacing. It raised a hand, reaching toward the mirror, beckoning her. Lisa felt her pulse quicken, a mix of fear and an inexplicable pull toward this entity. There was something familiar there, something that whispered of a past she couldn't remember. "Release her!" the figure cried, its voice a mixture of pain and urgency. "Who are you?" she stammered, every instinct urging her to flee. "Your mother," the figure replied, its features blurring as if distorting underwater. "You must let me out." She needs. The words shattered into a shriek, morphing into a cacophony of voices demanding liberation. Chills ran through her body. Memories of a childhood she couldn't fully grasp flickered in her mind, fragile moments of laughter and warmth swallowed by the back of her memory. Were they real, or mere figments of a life lost in shadows? "Why should I trust you?" she yelled, clutching the mirror with white-knuckled intensity. "You could be lying. Just like the others." A wave of grief rolled over the shadow, its form twisting as if it bore heavy burdens. "Because you know me, you loved me, I am trapped, Lisa. Save me, save us all." A flash in the mirror caught her attention. It revealed the same sickly yellow room she'd seen before, but now it was filled with more than sorrow. Flickering images of the child transformed, replaced by a horrific tableau of pain, children in dark corners, unsettling figures looming over them, the presence of something evil. "No!" she gasped, recoiling. This wasn't just about freeing her mother. It was bigger, darker, more sinister than she had imagined. There were consequences. The whispers rose to a crescendo, more frantic than ever, and a whirlwind of energy swirled around her. Lisa staggered back, feeling the shadows pulling at her, desperate for her decision. Fear gripped her throat, choking her resolve. Choose quickly, Lisa. The figure descended closer, its breath cold against her skin. Or they will suffocate. A sudden crash echoed from the spiraling shadows, reverberating through the basement. The door above creaked open, flooding the room with an unexpected blinding light. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the brightness, and Lisa took a startled step back. Please, you must choose. The figure's voice softened, barely a whisper now, yet still filled with urgency. If you don't act, you will be trapped here with us. The light flickered and dimmed. Time was running out. Emotions swirled within her, grief, love, betrayal, all tangled in a net of fear. Could she confront the haunting truth of her past, or would she lose herself, consumed by the ravenous shadows? As breath quickened, Lisa tightened her grip on the mirror, torn between the suffocating darkness and the blinding light. What would she sacrifice to break free? With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she took a deep breath, prepared to leap into the unknown. What awaited her in the light? And could she face the darkness that threatened to claim her once and for all? The shadows ceased their relentless pull as the blinding light enveloped Lisa, disorienting her senses. For a fleeting moment, there was a silence, a serene breath before the chaos. Then, with a gut-wrenching lurch, the floor seemed to tilt beneath her, sliding away like sand on an hourglass. Lisa's vision blurred in the brilliance, but colors exploded like fireworks, vivid yellows and reds contrasting sharply against the silver glimmer of the mirror she clutched, steadying her once more. The voice of her mother echoed from within the mirror, a haunting lament that pinched at her heart. You have to choose, not just for me. But before the words could settle, a chilling scream filled her ears. It was her own. In a heartbeat, the light shattered into a mosaic of dark streaks, blindsiding her as if she had been thrust into a tempest. The whispers returned, now unbearable, clinging to her skin like the cold sweat trickling down her spine. Save her, release her, trap her. She stumbled forward, drawn by the flickering outline of the figure that now appeared more solid, more desperate. Each flicker of warmth emanated from the light behind her, only to be snuffed out by fragments of shadow that layered over her vision like a bad dream she couldn't wake up from. Your choice, Lisa. The figure's voice grew frantic. Or they will destroy us. Lisa felt the floor beneath her shift again, the world spinning uncontrollably. I want to trust you. She shouted, her voice hoarse. But how can I? You abandoned me. With each accusation, the specter of her mother recoiled as if her words sliced through it. Please, she wept, her features distorting further, turning more into shadows than flesh. Believe me. Remember the love. But all Lisa could recall was pain, the searing image of icy fingers grasping her throat when she had felt the presence of something evil. The shadowy figures in the periphery beckoned her like lost souls drowning in despair. Remember who you are. They begged. Amid the chaos, a horrifying realization sunk deeper into her mind. Saving her mother may not only unravel her fickle grasp on reality but the very fabric of her existence. Shattering images from the past ricocheted in her head, blending memories of gentle caresses and violent screams. The mirror jerked in her grip, shaking violently with her discomfort. The shadows began to coalesce into something grotesque, a mass of angry faces, twisted by longing and betrayal. There were children's faces pressed against their master, eyes wide with despair, their mute cries rocking Lisa's chest. No. She gasped, her heart racing. This isn't real. You're all lying. The cacophony of anguish churned as an unseen force rippled through the air, pulling her closer to the living nightmare. Lisa fought against it, straining to step back, but the darkness grasped her like a vice. The mirror vibrated fiercely, pulling her gaze again. Everything melted into an anguished blur of light and dark, right and wrong, push and pull. I will not be trapped here. She screamed, but the shadows surged forward, and with every word, the warmth of her memories began to extinguish. Choose, Lisa. Choose now. The figure pleaded, now a whirlwind of anguish, and, as chaos engulfed her, just when she was certain the darkness would swallow her whole, a flicker of reclaiming warmth nudged at her heart. It was familiar, beckoning her from a distant place in time, a light in the shadows. Who will you save? The collective cries harmonized, twisting the air until it felt suffocating. The floor trembled beneath her, and as a blaring siren echoed from the depths of her psyche, her choice hovered before her like a fragile whisper. In this moment of desperation, terror skyrocketed within her. Had she the strength to confront her own worst fears, or would the darkness consume the last flicker of hope? The mirror dimmed, teetering in her grasp. What would it show her next? The mirror pulsed like a heartbeat, the very air around Lisa thickening with dread. Its surface glimmered, and shadows twisted ominously on the periphery of her vision. She could feel them, the shadows clawing at her sanity, whispering secrets soaked in darkness. Mom, her voice cracked, a fragile thread against the chaos. As she fought to hold on to herself, she could see her mother's face etching into clarity momentarily. I don't want to choose, Lisa choked. Each breath felt heavier, the pull of the darkness wrapping tighter around her throat, constricting her even as she pleaded. Not choosing is a choice. The figure screeched, the desperation draining its form into an amorphous mass. The faces pressed against the edges, children's faces, twisted and tear-streaked, seemed to sob in unison, drawing on her heart like leeches. Suddenly, an ear-splitting shriek echoed from the mirror, shaking the ground beneath her. Let me out. It was wild, furious, a sound spilling pure rage. The shadows recoiled at the sound, just for a moment, leaving the path to the mirror eerily clear. Help me. It was the voice of her mother collapsing into an abyss of agony. With one frantic step, Lisa lunged toward the mirror, heart racing like a runaway train. If there was hope, it had to be there. As she reached forward, the mirror warped, rippling with unnatural energy. Flashes of past memories erupted within, laughter in the summer sun, serene hugs, and warmth flooded by cold snapshots of violence and loss. Mom! She screamed, but no sooner had the words escaped than the shadows surged forward again, a wave of anguish amplifying as the children's faces swam closer, mouths opening in gruesome grins. You were never safe. Always hunted. Lisa fell backward, the mirror slipping from her grasp and shattering into a million shards, each piece seemingly alive, each reflecting grotesque realities. She felt an inexplicable pull to one of the fragments, a larger shard reflecting a scene of her mother standing in their old family home, fear etched across her face. It flickered, and Lisa could almost hear her mother's voice resonating within it, whispering for her to see. Lisa, you're losing yourself, another voice hissed, unmistakably serpentine. It slithered through the air, curling around her legs, dragging her down deeper into the shadows. Choose, Lisa. You can save me. The shadow of her mother stretched, reaching for her, desperate yet entrapping. You can end this. No. An icy resolve settled in Lisa. She couldn't. The mass coiled around her tighter, wrapping, squeezing until she felt her thoughts becoming a fog, smothering her will. Each second felt like an eternity as she wrestled against the encroaching darkness and the voices that clawed at her mind. In the midst of it all, a revelation hit her, sharp and sudden as glass. It's a trap. She gasped, realization flowing through her veins like fire. In that instant, she understood. To choose her mother was to risk becoming part of this haunting, twisted nightmare. The shadows thrived on her despair. Let go. She screamed as an inexplicable surge of strength coursed through her. The shadows howled in fury. Each scream scratched her insides, blurring her visions and remapping her fears. With no time to spare, Lisa forced herself backward, ripping free from the dark tendrils as they lashed out in rage. She could feel the void pulling her, a black hole threatening to devour her entirely. Just as she felt the last shred of light fade, the mirror fragments shimmered, revealing an exit behind her. She stole a glance over her shoulder. The shadows were furious, a tangled mass awaiting her decision, waiting to drag her under. Heart pounding, she sprinted toward the glimmer, hope ablaze, fear clawing at her heels. As she dove through, the cold darkness chased her, but in that moment, something shifted behind her. What would she face on the other side? Would the horror end, or merely begin anew? The jump through the glimmer felt like plunging into icy water. Lisa gasped, her breath freezing in her chest as she landed hard on cold, smooth concrete. She scrambled to her feet, glancing around. The space was dimly lit, the walls lined with peeling wallpaper that dripped shadows. Where am I? Her voice trembled amid the chilling silence. She hugged herself, fighting against the harrowing memories of the mirror. The air was thick here, stifling, yet somehow strange, a heavy, suffocating awareness that pressed down from all sides. A low hum began to vibrate through the floor, thrumming in sync with her heartbeat. With every pulse, the sound grew louder, drowning out her thoughts, engulfing her in an eerie sense of déjà vu. She tightened her grip on her arms, recalling the twisted faces clawing at her mind, realizing with horror, this wasn't over. "Mom!" She called out, her voice muffled by the oppressive air. She stepped forward, the floor slick beneath her feet. Folding shadows shifted at the edges, danced in the corners of her vision. Each step felt like a betrayal to her instincts. Was she still trapped? Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into figures, human shapes, flickering indistinctly, flickering in and out of focus like a broken video. They shifted, their movements jagged, marionette-like. "Help us!" A voice erupted, sharp and desolate, echoing through the space. Lisa stumbled back, meeting the gaze of a girl no older than 10 with hollow eyes and an unnatural grin. Her lips barely moved, yet a chorus of whispers spilled from them, swirling like smoke. "They made the wrong choice. You will, too." Lisa shivered, instinctively stepping away. "No. I want." With each denial, the shadows lunged forward, eyes glowing like dying embers. They reached for Lisa's limbs, clawing at her jeans, tugging, begging. "Please save us, don't listen." A deeper voice shot out from the crowd, rough and weary. It belonged to a figure in the back, a man drowned in misery, his eyes wide with panic. "You can't help us. You need to." Before he could finish, the shadows consumed him, the screams of other children strangled in his throat, a single scream of anguish echoing where he once stood. Instinctively, Lisa backed away, her heart pounding louder than the oppressive hum beneath her. "I can't. I won't fall into your trap." She turned and sprinted, fear flagging her limbs, searching for a way out. A wall loomed ahead, a bricked barrier marred with graffiti, decades of sorrow etched into the crumbling surface. She clawed at the wall, desperate for escape, dizziness creeping in as she felt dread slithering up her spine. Just then, she noticed a crack in the wall, a faint light shimmering through. Hope surged within her, igniting her steps as she zoomed toward it. But before she could reach the light, a chorus of voices erupted behind her. "Don't leave." The shadows surged again, but this time there was a hollowness to them, an avoidance that chilled her more than their presence. They weren't closing in, no, they were retreating, recoiling in terror. Then she heard it, a growl, deep and guttural, echoing from the dark recesses beyond her. The shadows seemed to tremor, burgeoning backward as if some ancient beast lurked behind them, keeping them at bay. "What is that?" Lisa's voice cracked in despair. She hesitated, gripped by the electric charge of danger lurking in the air. With a renewed burst of urgency, she collided with the wall, pressing her body against the crack, light spilling through like a beacon. The moans of the shadows crescendoed into cries, a cacophony of dread that washed over her. "Please don't go," they pleaded, the whispers threading into her ear, wrapping around her heart with a vice grip. As Lisa squeezed through the crevice, the growl rumbled again, the air whooshed around her, and she tumbled to the ground, this time into a weathered, wooden room. The furniture, cracked and old, creaked like a dying voice. Dust particles floated in the faint light filtering through grimy windows, but the walls almost seemed to breathe. She stood, panting. Terror pooling like ice in her veins, but above the low thrum of fear, another sound emerged, a soft humming, almost familiar, drifting from a doorway at the opposite end of the room. An inexplicable pull tugged at her. What lay beyond that door? Would it be a sanctuary or another nightmare waiting to spring its trap? With trembling hands, Lisa cautiously reached for the handle, her heart racing faster than ever, knowing she had to find out. The doorknob felt cold, slick under her trembling fingers. With a swift turn, the door creaked open, spilling shadow into the dusty room. Lisa held her breath, dread coiling tightly in her chest. The soft hum grew louder, a haunting lullaby echoing through the dim space. She stepped through the doorway, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. The room began to take shape, revealing walls covered in brittle, faded fabric that hung like decrepit sails. An old rocking chair creaked softly, a gentle motion, yet it made her skin prick with foreboding. "Mom." Her voice barely broke the fragile silence, a whisper drowned by the vibrant hum. It felt alive, pulsating as if a heart beat within the very walls. Each step sent shivers down her spine. A table stood at the far end, cluttered with odd artifacts, worn dolls with glassy stares, tarnished keys that glinted maliciously, a cracked mirror reflecting the dim room. It pulled her in, beckoning her to explore. As she moved closer, the air grew thick, growing heavier with each step. The music shifted subtly, discordant notes slipping into the melody, twisting her stomach. Anxiety felt like a ball of ice lodged in her throat. Suddenly, the chair stopped rocking. Lisa froze, staring at the figure seated there, a woman, her face obscured by a tattered veil, the fabric fluttering as though stirred by some unseen wind. "Come closer, dear," the woman intoned, her voice syrupy sweet but laced with something dark. "What do you want?" Lisa's voice wavered, insecurity making her hesitate. The memory of the shadows clawed at her mind, their pleas echoing like a siren's call. "To show you," the woman said, lifting a fragile hand, beckoning. "To help you find what you seek." Her voice was a sweet enticement, yet it dripped with an undercurrent of menace. Before Lisa could reply, the humming intensified into a chorus of laughter, bright and joyous but twisted. Shadows flickered across the walls, her heart raced. Were they the same figures from before? Had they followed her? "Walk with me," the woman's veil shimmered slightly as she stood. Lisa instinctively took a step backward but was transfixed by the woman's piercing eyes. They glimmered like pools of darkness, filled with an ancient knowledge that sent chills cascading down her spine. "Mom!" Panic surged again as she thought of her mother, trapped somewhere in this nightmare. "Let go of the past, you will find her here," the woman said, pointing toward the cracked mirror. "Look within. Everything is revealed in reflection." Lisa felt an agonizing pull toward the mirror, fury and fear mixing inside her. She shook her head. "No. I can't." "The choice is yours," the woman's grin stretched too wide, teeth sharp and glinting in the dim light. "Don't you want to know?" The flickering laughter crescendoed into a deafening roar, filling the room with sound. The shadows outside slithered closer, wrapping around her mind, pulling her toward the reflection. Choking on her rising fear, she fought against the invisible chains they forged. "No!" She screamed, desperately putting her hands against her ears, but it was too late. The mirror called to her, its surface warping, rippling like a dark pool ready to swallow her whole. Lisa stumbled back, but the woman stepped forward, blocking her retreat with an outstretched hand. Behind her, the shadows dwindled, merging malevolently with the reflection. "Join us," with a final, frantic thrust, Lisa tore herself away, charging back through the door she'd just entered. She needed to escape, but the way was lost. Panic knotted in her stomach. How could she evade this horror? The air thickened around her, as if the very room was alive, pulsating with a dark intent. Behind her, the haunting echoes of the past whispered her name, pulling her toward destruction. She spun towards the only other door she could see, heart racing, but before she could push it open, a chilling hand grasped her shoulder from behind. "Don't run away, Lisa," the velvet-soft voice slithered into her mind. Closing her eyes, she braced for the worst. Would she confront the truth, or would this be the end of her choices? The cold grasp of the woman's hand sent electric jolts through Lisa's body, linking her to the haunting heaviness looming in the air. It felt as if time froze, wrapping her in a suffocating silence. "Don't run away, Lisa." The velvet voice curled around her, sending chills racing down her spine. With a surge of adrenaline, she jerked forward, spinning on her heels to break away from the haunted figure. A rush of determination surged through her like fire, overwhelming her fear. "I want to let you take me," she shouted, hearing her own voice echo against the walls like a battle cry. She pushed through the door she had seen previously, heart hammering, praying for escape. Instantly, the door flung her back into the chaotic room where shadows writhed as if alive, whispering entwined words of dread. "Please, help us," they begged, their voices mingling in a mockery of sorrow. Lisa felt the pressure building around her, tangible, unyielding. She had to act fast. The shadows pressed in, each terrified face a grim reminder of what awaited if she succumbed to despair. She raced to the cracked mirror, her heart a relentless drumbeat, each pulse igniting a flicker of defiance in her chest. Grasping her last ounce of courage, she yelled, "You're not my past anymore." The mirror trembled violently, her reflection splintering and merging with memories of laughter, warmth, and pain. Images flashed, a young girl in yellow sunshine, smiles devoid of shadows, love true and pure. Among them, her mother's face appeared, a haunting figure caught between grief and longing. "Lisa, remember who you are." The reflection shouted, pulling her in, urging her to remember the real bond they shared. "No!" Lisa screamed, clenching her fists, determination boiling inside her core. Those memories weren't just fragments of her childhood. They were weapons against the darkness. Grabbing hold of the mirror's edge, she focused, channeling every ounce of strength into her voice. "I am stronger than your lies." Suddenly the specters froze, the momentum halted as shadows recoiled from her light. Lisa felt a surge of warmth from within, expansion flooding her limbs. "No more!" she shouted, and in that moment, the cracks in the mirror began to glow, enveloping her in blinding light. An explosion of vivid colors swirled around her, mingling her joy with grief. "Let go!" Her mother's voice rang clear across the chaos. "You are loved." Lisa's heart swelled, mixing with the heavy pulse of her memories. She took a step forward toward the mirror, feeling the warmth cocoon her and underlying every shattering scream and echo within the darkness. "I choose light," she cried, lifting her fists as if shielded by a force far greater than her own. The mirror burst forth, the energy sweeping shadows aside with a fiery rush. She felt herself break free from the grip of despair that had haunted her for too long. The shadows exploded in a cacophony of shrieks, swirling, twisting until they dissolved into tendrils of smoke, reclaiming their lost power. Then, silence. The room fell still, the cold fabric of fear evaporating as Lisa stood trembling, breath caught in her throat. She had faced it. She had set herself free. The old chairs creaked softly, and dim light filtered through the cracks, unveiling warmth and an empty yet hopeful space. "Mom," she whispered, wrapping her arms around herself, yearning to feel that familiar embrace. It filled the air like a lingering echo. Just as uncertainty clawed at her heart, she spotted a silhouette taking form, a familiar outline filled with love. Lisa, her mother, stepped forward, no veil obscured this time, her eyes radiating with warmth. "You've broken the curse, it's time now. We can truly begin again." Tears streamed down Lisa's cheeks as she took a tentative step forward, encompassing herself in her mother's embrace. The once looming shadows melted away, leaving behind only the bittersweet memory of fear. Peace washed over them both, filling the silence with a sense of ease long forgotten. As they held each other, laughter broke through the heavy air, echoing sweetly. "You safe now." With those words, Lisa felt the invisible threads that had tied her to the shadows dissolve, illuminating her heart with hope. "Let us go home," her mother whispered, and as they pulled away from the darkness, Lisa felt the haunting memories recede. They walked side by side, toward a new beginning, leaving the shadows behind forever. And as the dim light guided them into their next chapter, Lisa knew she would never forget. She carried the strength of their past entwined within her heart, forging ahead with nothing but love. Now, before you leave, I must plead you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Trust me, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep us thriving. We depend on your support, and let us make some noise in the comments. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. I want to hear from you. Finally, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word. Your engagement is what keeps these stories coming.